Is the U.S. government just a nest of lobbyists? A provocative question indeed. We're here with Colonel Macgregor to delve into this topic. The current state of American politics has become a topic of global conversation, and for good reason. With the wave of Ukrainian flags in Congress, the question arises, are we looking at a government of representatives or lobbyists? The elephant and the donkey, symbols of the two major political parties, have been mentioned. But is there more to this story? Are these just labels for a deeper, more complex situation? With the recent allegations and the ever-increasing tension within political circles, it's hard to deny that something is amiss. But to truly understand the situation, we need to hear from those who have been on the inside. So let's cut through the noise and hear directly from the man himself, Colonel Macgregor. Colonel Macgregor, the question from our audience today is, are U.S. politicians merely lobbyists in disguise? And to this, Colonel Macgregor responds with a firm conviction. He opines that the U.S. government currently consists more of lobbyists than true representatives. A startling revelation indeed. Macgregor paints a vivid picture of the political landscape, where elected officials are more interested in lobbying for funds to line their own pockets than serving the interests of their constituents. He adds a layer of complexity to this image by identifying two distinct types of politicians. First, there are those he likens to a donkey who, due to their ignorance, fail to understand the implications of their action. The second group, symbolized by the elephant, are destructive in nature, causing more harm than good with their decisions. But the most damning part of Macgregor's assessment is his belief that the majority of these politicians are bought men. According to him, these individuals are not driven by a desire to serve the public, but rather, their actions are dictated by those who fund them. This, he suggests, is why we see certain policies being followed that may not necessarily align with the needs or wants of the general populace. So you believe that the current state of politics is due to these bought men who are lobbying for money? Macgregor's response is a resounding yes. He believes that the current state of politics is a direct result of politicians prioritizing personal gain over public service. This, he suggests, is why the political landscape is rife with corruption and self-serving agendas, leaving the average citizen feeling disillusioned and disheartened. In Macgregor's view, this is not just a problem, but a crisis that threatens the very principles upon which the nation was built. It's a sobering perspective, a wake-up call for those who believe in the power of democracy, and a call to action for everyone who cares about the future of the nation. You've mentioned that this might be the worst state of U.S. politics. Can you elaborate on that? Certainly. Let's start at the top. We've got Joe Biden in the White House, a man whose career has been defined by political maneuvering rather than principled leadership. His administration seems more interested in appeasing lobbyists and special interest groups than serving the American people. The White House isn't the only place where things seem to be going awry. Congress isn't faring much better. The hallways of the Capitol are a hive of lobbyists, each one buzzing with their own agendas, seeking to influence our elected representatives. It's a situation that has evolved over years, with the line between lobbying and legislating becoming increasingly blurred. Now, I'm not saying that all lobbyists are inherently bad. Some represent important causes and can provide valuable expertise. But when the scales tip too far in their favor, when money and influence overshadow the voices of the people, that's where the problem lies. We've ended up with a government that feels more like 525 lobbyists than a body of representatives. Too many of our politicians seem more interested in lining their pockets than in serving the public. Some are merely ignorant, akin to a donkey, while others are destructively stubborn, reminiscent of an elephant. But the vast majority, with few exceptions, appear to be bought men. This explains why we are seeing the policies that we are. It's a sad state of affairs when our government seems more beholden to the highest bidder than to the will of the people. It's no wonder then that many of us are left feeling disillusioned and disenfranchised. And it's not just the current state of affairs that's concerning, it's the trajectory we're on. Every time we think it can't get worse, it somehow does. It's a downward spiral that's difficult to break free from. That's quite a statement, Colonel. It's hard to imagine things getting worse. You've mentioned the term Epstein Island in relation to Washington. What do you mean by that? Well, it's a metaphor, but a disturbingly apt one. The term Epstein Island is a reference to the notorious private island owned by the late financier Jeffrey Epstein, a place infamous for its alleged illicit activities. Now, when we draw a parallel between that and Washington, we're not implying that every politician is involved in such scandalous activities. What we're suggesting, though, is that the concept of being compromised, manipulated, and controlled through unsavory means is not a far cry from what's happening in our political sphere. Much like how Epstein allegedly held sway over his guests through dark secrets, the insinuations are that many of our politicians might be under similar pressures, albeit of a different nature. Now, there's a term that's been floating around: political blackmail. It's the idea that those in power can be influenced or coerced into making decisions that aren't in the best interest of the people they represent. And this isn't just about scandalous personal behavior. It could be about financial entanglements, conflicts of interest, or any number of things that could be used as leverage. And this is where the Epstein Island analogy comes into play. It's a symbol of a situation where influential individuals are manipulated and controlled not by their conscience or by their constituents, but by unseen forces that hold sway over them. It's a grim picture to paint, but it's a sentiment that's gaining traction, and for good reason. The idea that our representatives could be bought and influenced by those with deep pockets and hidden agendas is a frightening thought. It's a betrayal of the democratic principles that our nation was built on, and it's a stark reminder of the challenges that lie ahead in our quest to ensure a fair and transparent political process. The comparison to Epstein Island certainly paints a grim picture of Washington. Indeed, it's a chilling analogy, but one that underscores the urgency of the situation. You've talked about the role of oligarchs in U.S. politics. What do you see as the future of this situation? Now, there's a question that's been echoing in the hallways of power. Let's dive in. Imagine, if you will, a world where billionaires and oligarchs hold the puppet strings of policy, where the whispers of the few echo louder than the voices of the many. This isn't some dystopian novel, it's the reality we're grappling with. The influence of these financial giants in shaping U.S. policy is staggering. They're the unseen hands that guide the course of our nation. You see, it's not just about the money. It's about the power that comes with it, the power to shape laws, to influence decisions, to tip the scales in favor of personal interests. This is the playground of the oligarchs, the billionaires, the hedge fund managers. They're not just players in the game, they're the ones setting the rules. You might wonder, how can we navigate this? Is there a way out? Well, here's a thought. Colonel Macgregor, a man who spent his life in the service of our nation, predicts that the only solution may be a financial collapse, a reset, if you will, a chance to rebuild from the ashes. Now, that's a sobering thought, isn't it? It's not an easy pill to swallow, but it's a possibility we must consider. It's a call to action, a call to rethink our systems, our values, our future. Because, my friends, the future is not just in the hands of the oligarchs, it's in ours too. And so, as we stare hard into the mirror of our future, let us remember that change begins with us. It's our voice, our actions, our choices that will shape the world we leave for the next generation. It's a daunting task, but it's one we must undertake. A sobering thought indeed. Thank you for sharing your insights, Colonel Macgregor. We've discussed a lot today about the state of U.S. politics. We've delved into the current political climate, highlighting the alarming trend of lobbyists replacing representatives and the resulting degradation of political standards. We've also touched upon the disturbing concept of Epstein Island, a metaphorical representation of Washington, shedding light on potential scandals and blackmail that could be influencing policy decisions. We've further explored the role of oligarchs, painting a picture of billionaires dictating policy outcomes, mirroring scenarios found in countries like Russia or Ukraine. And finally, we've looked into the future, a future, as Colonel Macgregor suggests, that might be heralded by a financial collapse. These are heavy issues, no doubt, but they are crucial in understanding the complexities and challenges within our political landscape. With these thoughts from Colonel Macgregor, we encourage our audience to ponder on the state of their nation.